Stop scrolling. If you've come across this video, I have a message to you from your angels, spirits, and guides. Okay, so first up, if you're an Aries, Gemini, Capricorn, or Aquarius, money is coming to you soon. If you are a Leo, Sagittarius, Taurus, or if you're wearing the color blue, your person is coming to you very soon. And I have one more card, one more message from Spirit. Ooh. Well, it looks like Spirit's calling me a dirty little liar. Hi.
Hello, future editing me here to tell you that this video is broken down into 3 parts. Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. I'm not sure which order it's in because I'm editing right now. The beginning of this video, I talk about the history of New Age spirituality because I felt like it was really important to the whole rest of the story. Timestamps should be below. Yeah, I hope it makes sense. I was kind of drunk when I filmed this part, so.
We all know that fashion is cyclical, and as the great philosopher Jay-Z once said, history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. The New Age movement is no different. The 1970s are seen as a time of hippie and free love, dude. But the reality is that at this time, it was very tumultuous. Minority groups were very loud and proud about the rights, or the rights that they didn't have. Gay rights, women's rights, race rights. 1970 produced the very first Earth Day, and the 1970s also produced a time where people were not only distrustful of the government, but politics in general, citing the Kent State shooting. Among other things, the Vietnam War and Watergate really changed the political landscape of this country as a whole. Not only that, but the 1970s are a time of disco, of rock and roll. Donna Summer, ABBA, the Rolling Stones, Queen. It was iconic as time. Young people were grasping at liberation and also self-realization. They were doing drugs, having sex, doing whatever they deemed at that time as worth it or just what they wanted to do. 1970 is viewed as the birth of the Aquarius age, or the coming of the Aquarius age. The sign of Aquarius is noted to be about humanitarianism, freedom, philanthropy, and the sign of Aquarius is noted as the sister sign of Leo. And as a Leo, I have to say, Aquarians are pretty fucking cool. American theosophist and spiritual philosopher David Spangler is noted as the founder of the metaphysical and New Age spirituality movement of North America. In 1976, he released a set of books that are counted as one of the greatest in the metaphysical and esoteric communities, not only in North America but across the globe. It was a cultural shift that not only shook the aspects of Eastern mysticism, which I'll get into later, but also North American / American rationalism. It was really a time of developing thoughts about philosophy and also created studies in human consciousness. There was an emphasis on holistic health, eating right or clean as we would say today, metaphysical things. In the 1980s, there was a huge boom of things like crystals and extraterrestrial life, which again Is this ringing any bells? By the end of the 1980s, the movement had actually lost a lot of its life, and by the 1990s, the movement all about died until like The Craft came out. Which leads us to today. In 1944, the American psychological thriller called Gaslight, starring Ingrid Bergman, Charles Boyer, and Angela Lansbury, tells the tale of a young woman whose husband manipulates her into slowly descending into madness. The definition of gaslighting is psychological manipulation of a person, usually over an extended period of time, that causes the victim to question the validity of their own thoughts, perception of reality, or memories, and typically leads to confusion, loss of confidence, and self-esteem, uncertainty of one's emotional or mental stability, and a dependency on the perpetrator. And I know that it might sound like a stretch to say that the spiritual community is gaslighting its audience and basically everyone else, but hear me out. If someone were to tell you that your reality is fake, or that you could actually shift reality so that you could live a better life, or better yet, that you are not a human earthbound spirit, but instead a intergalactical starseed who has special knowledge on science and medicine that the world needs to know, but only you can unlock that if you buy my special multi-blend mugwort tea, now $19.99 in my Etsy shop. Wouldn't that technically fall underneath the definition of gaslighting? If you're still not picking up what I'm laying down, let me go on further.
I'll run into media where a character or characters find out that their reality or that their perceived reality isn't all that it's cracked up to be. Or we experience a character who is able to travel from one world or reality to another world or reality. Majority of us look at that type of content and think it's media, it's not real. So basically it becomes harmless. But Joe Gold, a psychiatrist, and Ian Gold, a philosopher who specializes in the study of delusion, coined the term the Truman Show delusion, which they believe is a based manifestation of psychotic thinking. Critics of this theory, or whatever, have said that they do not believe that they think that it's a new type of mental illness, that it's just the same old delusion, just repackaged and repurposed to fit a modern day narrative. And the Gold brothers claim that they don't believe that it's a new type of mental illness either, but rather instead a significant impact on the culture of psychosis. The Truman Show delusion, which if you haven't watched The Truman Show, sorry, has its basis in that a person believes that they are the main character of a television show. It really is hitting on delusions of grandeur. Delusions of grandeur is one of the most common types of delusions. It's basically when you believe that you are smarter, wealthier, more powerful than you actually are. It's quite literally main character energy, but on steroids. When you have spiritualists and gurus constantly telling you that you are special, that you're a star seed, an indigo child, that you're so close to breaking out of the matrix, and that they can help you to achieve these things and to reach your higher self, well, you're kind of being fed a delusion. And when you interact with that content on any social media platform, the algorithm starts to feed you more.
The more and more you see these messages, the more likely you are going to believe that these messages are meant for you. And, you know, to be honest, maybe some of them are actually meant for some of you, but not 3,000 of you, let alone 300,000. Especially on an app like TikTok, if you are white or skinny, if you're aesthetically pleasing or calming, algorithm is going to push your content out more. We all know that algorithms in general aren't usually fair. These influencers, because that's technically what they are able to garner a relationship with their audience, and the more people that follow and comment and share and bookmark, the more that these influencers seem like they are reputable and knowledgeable about the information that they're giving you. To be honest, you don't need a PhD to start talking about spirituality. Spiritualists aren't the only people that do this. Astrologists do this too. And if I could make a Venn diagram of intersecting like factors between spirituality and astrology, one of the main ones would be profit. If your knowledge about astrology starts and stops at Twitter and Instagram memes, well then, there's a problem. Your knowledge about astrology as a whole starts and stops at your big three and what you learn from Twitter and Instagram memes, then you're basically very susceptible. Pop astrology is fun, I'm not going to lie, and it is cute, and it's easy, digestible content, meaning that anybody can get into it. You don't have to know much about astrology at all to get into pop astrology. I did a poll on my Twitter and I asked whether or not people found pop astrology to be detrimental or helpful in regards to learning about astrology, and it was half and half, which I find interesting. The more that pop astrology comes across social media, the faster and further it gets along with people. It doesn't take a lot of brain power to understand the content, and that's the point. You will rarely, if ever, see big astrology accounts talk about things like your North and South Node, things outside of your big three, your Mercury sign. I have yet to see big astrology accounts talk about midheavens. I'm not saying that any of that is bad, but I am saying astrology is very in-depth and very intensive, and it can be used for great things. But if you're only using it to find memes, it's very easy to believe certain things about certain signs and not even really be invested in the information that you're picking up. I spent months liking and commenting and sharing and bookmarking posts and videos about astrology and spirituality. And even though it's been weeks to months of me not interacting with that type of content, I'm still being bombarded by these messages day in and day out. I really honestly can't imagine what kind of messages other people who are thoroughly invested in these spiritual and astrological communities, what they're getting every day. People, corporations, and businesses are seeing the power that spirituality and astrology have. And no, I'm not talking about the power that it has to change your life. I'm talking about the power it has to get your attention, and past that, your money. Even the United States Army has seen how profitable or interactive it can be. And yes, it's still up on their Instagram. If you want to gain someone's attention, what better way than to give them knowledge or information about themselves that they didn't have previously? Honestly, from an advertising standpoint, it's pretty great. Remember how I said earlier the New Age spirituality of the 1970s took from Eastern mysticism and religions? Well, with time, it literally just became worse. Spirituality of today not only steals from the East, but it also steals from Native Americans and African American religions and practices. I think especially in today's society, with the help of the internet, a lot of people think that the word gatekeeping is a bad thing, and that instead of what a lot of us would deem as cultural appropriation is more like cultural appreciation, which, to be honest, is its own can of worms. Closed practices aren't really necessarily a bad thing, especially seeing how so many people of color over the years have been looked down upon for their actual cultural practices. Yoga, for instance, has had a massive resurgence, but it's spearheaded by white women and not the culture that it originates from. On TikTok especially, the topic of chakras has had a lot of debate, because if you just type in chakra into the search bar, you will be bombarded with video upon video of white women and non-Indian people talking about chakras, even though the chakra system has its origins in India from between 1500 and 500 BC. There's an emphasis on the topic coming from people who have just recently delved into the concept of chakras or spirituality in general, and not from the culture and communities that it originates from. It's literally just aesthetics and vibes. New Age spirituality and picking and choosing from different religions and cultures goes pretty much hand in hand. So many marginalized people are constantly having their voices not heard, even though their culture are the ones being constantly stolen from.
Midwest Bimbo, why do people keep stealing from other people's cultures?
Well, baby, for profit, of course. Girlboss was popularized by Sophia Maruso in her 2014 book titled Girlboss. I actually own it. I have no idea where I put it, and I'm pretty sure I didn't actually read it. Girlboss is about a woman who, quote, whose success is defined in opposition to the masculine business world in which we swim upstream. Originally, it was a compliment to women to be counted as a girl boss, and now it's kind of like used as a way to insult them. It quickly went from being something to aspire to be to something that is slowly but surely circled around the porcelain toilet that we call feminism. Girl bossing became quickly associated with hustle culture, bread making, and money. Duh, capitalism. The West, specifically the United States, loves hustle culture, loves capitalism. Spirituality and capitalism are two things that you wouldn't necessarily think would belong together or go together, but the reality is, at this point in time right now, they're basically fucking married. It's all about individualism. Girl bossing, which is a westernized concept of how to be stable and how to live the American dream, has to do a lot with the Western idea of individualism. There is no conceivable way that you can marry cultures and aspects of spirituality that has to do with community and community-based things and mesh it or marry it with individualism. The two simply cannot coexist with each other. Individualism is a pollutant that haunts the air that we are all breathing as a Western society, and it never gets talked about enough, especially in the spirituality community. With girl bossing and individualism, there is an emphasis on things like money and power and reaching your higher self, your higher goal that is stable and living the life of your dreams. It all sounds super great, except for the fact that if we know anything about the American dream, especially in 2022, it's fake. Again, I don't want to say that glowing up or that wanting to become a better person, a more stable person, a more healthy person is a bad thing. It's not. Those are things to aspire to be. But to be honest, we live in a society. The way that a lot of us view success, especially in the West, is a very warped way to view things if we're not taking into account capitalism and how it is affecting our day-to-day daily lives. As someone who has partially made social media their job, I can tell you right now, at times, and for certain people, it can be very lucrative. Between sponsorships, brand deals, using your social media and your influence to promote your own businesses, side hustles, through Patreon, your own website, etc., etc. The list goes on. How much are you willing to spend to get your birth chart read? How much are you willing to spend to get your tarot cards read? How much are you willing to pay for a crystal? And most importantly, how do you trust the people whose work or whose candle work or crystals you are buying? Speaking of crystals, you might even recognize this little baby who technically looks like a broken Heineken bottle that you can find on the side of I-95, and she is Moldavite. Not technically a crystal, actually it's a tektite. That's another thing for another video. Anyways, she was the it girl of TikTok for at least a month. A small round bit of Moldavite can easily run you back about $200. Not a joke, actual price. One thing about crystals, well, baby, they all have a fake. Literally all of them. Personally, I have paid upwards $100+ to get my astrology chart read. I've paid maybe like anywhere from like $50 to $100 some to get my tarot cards read. The most I've ever spent on a crystal, I'm going to say, is like $30. Whenever it comes to somebody whose work I'm going to be getting done for me. I hound their social media. I look back. I check out the reviews. And I know that that's for me personally, but I know that also not everybody is doing that, which I think it's important, especially to do your own research in regards to basically anybody who you follow on social media. With the rise of social media and spirituality, you most likely have run into a multitude of accounts that deal in spirituality or astrology that are quite like used car salesmen who really want to sell you a car. Astrology birth chart can run you anywhere from $15 to $200. Tarot cards read anywhere from $15 to $200, probably more actually. Candle work done anywhere from $10 to $7,000, and crystals that's always a free for all. We could get into the hundreds of thousands, to be honest.
But Midwest Bimbo, who's spending racks on spells and candles?
Well, let me tell you, to be honest, a lot of people, especially now, as previously stated, I don't think that spirituality or astrology has seen an economic boom like this since the 1970s. It's kind of insane. Now, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be selling their wares or shouldn't be selling their work or shouldn't be selling their talents at all. That's not what I'm saying. There are some very amazing, iconic, helpful astrologists and spiritualists out there that I'm sure can be very helpful and healing to the masses. But along with all of the people who are very much being helpful, there's definitely a lot of people out there who are just straight up scamming. How long have some of these people been practicing? What are their backgrounds? What kind of knowledge do they have, especially in the last couple of weeks or months or years actually on Twitter? You see a lot of astrologists and spiritualists using words I'm not quite sure they know what the definitions are. How do you trust these people? You know how earlier I just mentioned trustworthiness? Well, in regards to trustworthiness or knowing how knowledgeable a spiritualist or astrologist is, they, a lot of the time, don't actually have to give you any of their background or any of the research that they've done. No. In regards to social media, what matters to a lot of people is the follower count. The more followers you have in regards to spirituality or astrology, the more knowledgeable you seem to be. Are you sensing what the problem is? I'm actually going to be doing a part 2 to this girl boss section where I name off a couple of different astrologists and spiritualists who have huge following. Girl, get ready for that one. This was part 1 of the video. In part 2, it's going to be a continuation of the girl boss section where I go into specific content creators and influencers, spiritualists, whatever you want to call them, who I find to be a little bit dangerous or who have a habit of stealing. Marin Altman, Star Heal, The Hood Healer. I'm just naming a few right here. So please look forward to seeing that hopefully a couple of days after this one comes out. Fingers crossed. For the conclusion of this video, I want to say that these last couple of years since we're in a Ponderosa have been exceptionally anxiety-inducing, defibrillating, horrible, whatever negative adjective that you would like to use. It's gonna fit. And a lot of us have been searching for some sort of guidance. We've watched or have experienced people that we know de-wording, losing jobs, losing their houses, losing their places to live, having trouble with money and bills. And I feel like everyone is just searching around in the dark, trying to find some guidance outside of this deep, dark pit of despair that some people will choose just about anybody to help dig their way out. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to look for guidance and to hope that someone is out there that can help lead you to the light or lead you on your way to your path to destiny. What I am saying is that a lot of people have been noticing this and have decided to take advantage of it. It's important, and I know people don't like to hear this, but it is important to actively do your own research, especially when it comes to influencers that you're following online when you're taking their word as Bible. I hate to sound like a Catholic on Maine, but there are a lot of false prophets out there, a lot of false teachers who ultimately don't care about you and instead care about making a quick buck. Why are there so many tarot card readers? You can't manifest your way out of poverty. You can't use Reiki healing or crystals to completely demolish your trauma, especially when it's trauma caused by, I don't know, the weight of capitalism, or, I mean, kind of like anything else. You can't shift your way into an ultimate new reality where everything is perfect and you're living your dream life. I'm sorry to say it, and I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but like, this is real life right here, right now, and you gotta carry that weight, dude. I also want to say that I don't have all the answers. I'm some bitch who lives in the Midwest who sits on her floor and makes silly little videos and hopes that I'm coherent. I think that not knowing what's going to happen is really scary for a lot of people, but I ultimately think that it's something that all of us should probably learn to embrace. I'm sorry that this video is ending on like a not super fun, happy, uplifting note, but I think it's important that we're just a little bit real and honest with each other. I think it's interesting that when I did my research on New Age spirituality, that it died by the 90s, meaning that it had like 2 decades of just thriving until it just plateaued and then went off the deep end. And the way that we consume cycles and the way that we consume trends at such a rapid pace, I honestly expect majority of spirituality and astrology to die out in the next couple of years, if not in a shorter amount of time, especially with the way that you see a lot of influencers and spiritualists act online. I think that spirituality and I think that astrology are cool, but I think ultimately they're tools, and you can use a tool to either help you and to help you learn about yourself and the people around you, or you could use it to actively harm yourself. I've seen people who have gone through this sort of like psychosis in regards to spirituality. I've seen people try and do spells to make exes come back, or for celebrities to fall in love with them. That's dangerous. Anyways, this is the January collage. I tried to do something different, kind of weird. I thought it was cool. It's 2 turtles boinking on top of all-nighter pills with eyes around it. If you want to support me and support my channel and want to see more videos from me, here are my social media things that you can follow me on if you would be so inclined, so you can see me being weird and annoying on the internet. Join our Discord, join my Discord if you would like to. Shout out to my patrons. You guys helped me pay for groceries this month. Thoroughly appreciated. I guess I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. It's literally 6 a.m. and I just drank a Red Bull. I've been up for over 24 hours. My forehead is brighter than my future.